welcome to the Press Box. My name is Melissa Ponzio, and for the next 30 minutes, I'll be your host. With me, as always, are Jay and Ty. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're hanging in there.
Good, good. Well, if you're joining us for the first time on Tuesday nights, we used to be on Fridays, but from now on, we'll be on Tuesdays. This is a live show, so give us a call. The number is 873-6713, and we're going to start things off with the Braves in the NHL West. And are they starting to make their run?
I think so, to be honest with you. They started making their run about this time last year, and they were 10 games under 500 last year when they started playing really well. Now I think some of the hitting is coming around, especially with Terry Pendleton, who I think is such a leader on this club. I went to 2 out of the three games over the weekend, and he was hitting the ball a lot better than what I've seen him do earlier this year. I think as he starts to get going, showing his leadership, I think the team will get going. And Jay, I think that when the pitching sees that they're going to get a little bit of offense, they're going to be more relaxed and pitch more of their game instead of being all nervous and coming out there thinking, oh, God, I got to win this game 2-1 because I have no offense. If they know they're going to get some offense, get 4 or 5 runs once in a while, I think they're going to be in pretty good shape. Yeah, I think they're ready to make a run and make a statement here.
Yeah, I think their hitting's come around. The 4-game series in Colorado really helped. And after you start connecting a little bit, you get more confident at the plate. Your point about the pitching is well taken. I think the pitchers will start going longer, deeper into the game now. But I really don't think they've made their run yet. I think they're going to just hang around 2-3 games behind. If you remember last year, they were like in last place, and they had to do something.
10 games under.
Yeah, you can't climb over 5-6 teams in a couple months. So now I think they're right where they want to be. You want to be second or third, couple games behind. You know, they have the pitching that in the dog days of August will carry them through a 20-25 game streak.
Yeah.
So they haven't met your expectations so far, the starting pitchers?
No, I think what Ty said first was they were trying to win the game 1-0 or 2-1 at the beginning. And then now that they've gotten hitting support, they're too relaxed. Now they're giving up runs. Like a big thing in baseball is when you score a run, you've got to hold the other team the next half inning. And the Braves pitchers aren't doing that this year yet, but they will.
What are your feelings on Mike Stanton?
Mike Stanton's been great. He's gotten knocked around a little bit here and there, but the man has 16 saves. He's leading the majors in saves. He's doing a great job. He had that one really bad outing in that afternoon game out there at Candlestick, where you felt that he should have left Pete Smith in, and that disastrous comeback that San Francisco had on that Sunday afternoon game. But outside of that, I think Mike Stanton's just been really an outstanding reliever, and I really think he's going to get a lot of saves this year if he stays healthy. He's looking at 50 easily at the pace he's going at.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you notice about Stanton, though, is he tends to do a lot better when he starts an inning. If he comes in the middle of the inning, he's too wild. He might put the first guy on, you know. If you notice that, I think in 15 of his 16 saves, he started the 9th and finished the 9th.
So I didn't notice that, but I'll start looking for that, Jay. And if it doesn't happen, I'll call you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, we have a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air. Fine, how are you?
I'm all right. I wanted to call. I called earlier in the season, in the preseason, and I wanted to say something that my premonition has come true so far, that the Reds, as I said, will have a strong team, as well as the Giants having a strong team. And I remember that the guy with the facial hair with the beard. I forgot what's his name again.
Jay.
Okay, Jay. I'm sorry. Jay,
That's all right.
Jay, you said, Jay, that the Braves had a cakewalk because they had pitching, and I told you not to count Bonds out and don't count out the Reds with Kevin Mitchell and all the accusations, all the people that they got this year.
You're right. You're all right. No, the Giants have started off good, but now look, what I said was the Giants don't have the pitching the Braves have. And so it's all right for 25, 30 games, but if you play 162 games, you're going to have better pitching than the Giants. Now, the Reds, they may come on because they've seemed to settle down. However, they can't beat the Dodgers.
I agree with that. But the team to beat are Philadelphia Phillies. Watch them.
Yeah.
They're for real. People don't realize that, but they're for real, and they got that hunger in them this year.
Right.
They look pretty good over the weekend.
Right. You want to comment on this weekend's series?
Oh, well, I thought it was a great series. I mean, it was just, those were some fun games to go to. Philadelphia, I think, if they can keep their pitching healthy, they are a strong team. They have good hitters. Kruk is outstanding. You have Dykstra. Hollins is excellent at third base. And, of course, Darren Dalton, who really impressed me with his off-field power. He had a home run and a double in 2 games to the opposite field. I'm just impressed with that team offensively. Again, I would just like to that big question, pitching, can they stay healthy? Can they stay consistent? And Philadelphia is going to be okay. What is it? The former Brave, Tommy Green, he's 4-0. Schilling is 4-1 right now. Those are really pleasant surprises for Jim Fregosi.
Well, Holland's probably their best pitcher. But I was there at 2 of the 3 games, too. And I'll tell you, one of the things you noticed about the Braves last year, and I think it's starting to come true this year, is that they get up for the big games, and they play good. Now, you know, who's to say that when they go to New York this weekend, they might blow all 3 games because the Mets aren't playing good, and, you know, the Braves have a tendency to play down to the opposition. Whereas when they play a good team, they really get up. I thought they were sky high for that Philly series. And like you said, they're making good contact. Pitchers made good pitches, and it was a fun series.
And let's go back to talking about the Giants here. I mean, here it is. They've had a really pleasant surprise pitching. I think their team ERA is something like 3.6, 3.7. But the main thing has been Barry Bonds and Matt Williams. Barry Bonds has a slugging average of around 800. I mean, when in 1921, Babe Ruth hit 59 home runs and had one of his most productive years, and I don't even think his slugging percentage was 800. So I really, you know, if Bonds keeps that up, he's going to have an outstanding year.
That was in the dead ball
That's
era,
just a comparison that I'm making of what a slugging percentage like that the whole year would carry you through. I personally, no, I don't think he's going to be able to maintain that. There's just no way. And Matt Williams has a slugging average of 650 and is leading the National League in home runs right now. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up these great hitting numbers. I just don't think we're going to see that.
Although this year, if I might add something, Ty, this is the year to maintain those high numbers because of expansion. It's diluted the pitching staffs around the league. And if you look at when, who was it in the American League? Brett almost hit 400. That was an expansion year. Maris hit 61 homers in an expansion year.
Norm Cash batted 361 in that expansion year.
So usually in an expansion year, the hitting numbers will be up. And that's why it's hard to sit here and say that Bonds may not maintain that level, because he may.
No,
but the big thing with the Giants, and I want to thank that caller for calling in and remembering us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but the big thing with the Giants that we said at the beginning of the year in the preseason was they do not have the pitchers that the Astros and the Reds and the Braves have. So I think the Giants will fall through the standings as the season progresses into the dog days.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Bonds is a great player. I think Williams is a great player, and I think they're going to have good years this year. But just to keep that level. To keep playing at that level throughout the whole year, I just don't see it. There's going to be a drop-off, and I think it might be significant.
Okay, this past series with the Phillies, do you think that might be a preview for the playoffs?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
And Philadelphia, like I said, keeps their pitching healthy and consistent, and I still think the Braves are going to win the West. Sure. That would be a great series. I'd love to see it.
Jay?
Yeah, I think that right now the Phillies are pretty much on par to win the East, and like I said earlier in the show, the Braves, if they hang around 2-3 games behind, they'll make a move late and pass everybody and win the division going away.
Okay. What about Houston? Do you think that maybe they'll compete for the lead in September?
I think Houston's got a good team, but I think they're going to fall off towards September. I think they have great pitching. Well, 3 really good pitchers. Pete Harnish, who's a fine young pitcher. I've always liked him.
Yeah.
There's Drabek, and then there's Swindell.
They also got Jones, right, from the Padres, Jimmy Jones.
Jimmy Jones. Did he pitch against the Braves? I don't know if I saw him or not.
I'm not sure. No, I think the 3 you listed are the ones.
Those are 3 really good pitchers that can carry a lot of weight for you and win a lot of games for you. Houston has got a lot of good young players that they've just brought up through the system and also through the Glenn Davis trade. And they've just held on to these guys and then went on ahead, spent the money, got some pitchers from free agency. I think they're going to be a good club that can win 80 to 85 games. But when it comes to September, I really think the teams that are going to be there are going to be the Braves and the Reds.
Good, yeah. Pretty much I agree with that. I think the Astros are where the Braves were 3 years ago.
Yeah, they might.
Maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good, they're young, and they've developed their own talent. And in a couple of years, the Astros are going to be just like the Braves. If they maintain a starting staff that can shut you down, their hitters will just keep getting better and better.
Okay.
I think their offense could be better. I don't think their pitching will be as good.
Right. Well, I just want to once again give out the phone number here because this is a live show, and the phone number is 873-6713. And what do you know? We have a call. Hi, caller. You're on the air. Hello?
Yes, hello. I just wanted to know why everyone was watching the Braves game right now. I mean, they're on. How come you guys are talking about them and not watching them?
Okay, we'll talk about the NBA playoffs.
Well, see, we used to be on Friday, but now we're on Tuesdays. So when the Braves game's not on, you'll have to tune in. Let me ask you one quick question because we have to touch on this. How do you feel about Dion quitting?
Well, earlier, last season, someone called in, and it may have been the same guy who wanted to get rid of Ronnie Gann. And I just thought, well, first of all, when you have Deion Sanders on the team, you never know what this guy's going to do. And so I wanted to keep the 4 outfielders myself personally. With Deion, I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea whatsoever. The Falcons, they've gained a little bit of leverage by really putting money into their defense, getting players in the secondary especially because they're counting on not having Deion basically, which is what I would do. And the Braves, I think, are basically structuring their team to play without Deion, which is, again, the smart thing to do. I really have no idea what him and Eugene Parker are plotting. I don't know what they want to do.
Jay?
Well, I think, in so many words, I say see ya. I mean, I don't think the Braves should get him back. He's proved that he's selfish now. And, the team with the best players isn't going to win the division. The best team will. And as soon as he learns that it's a team sport, the better off he'll be with wherever he goes in baseball. I think maybe he might have learned that selfish attitude from Jerry Glanville and the Falcons. I'm not sure. But it just seemed to me like, you don't quit because you're not playing. I mean, Skip Carey's point the next night was a good one. He said, after he announced the lineup, he said, okay, Olson's not in the lineup, Pacoda's not in the lineup, they didn't go home,
Yeah.
And so that's the point well taken. I mean, you got 25 guys and only 9 of them can play. And if you're going to quit because you're not in the lineup, then you're not going to be any good to a good team. Now, maybe a team like the Marlins or the Rockies or the Mets can use a good player because that'll help their talent level. But a good team doesn't need a selfish person like that. They'll just be destructive.
Okay. What about, do we have any other teams that we need to consider?
In the West,
Yeah.
well, I think the Reds that's the main team that I would be concerned with.
But they're going to miss Lou Piniella.
Yeah.
When it comes to stretch drive, Perez being a rookie manager may make some rookie manager mistakes, and that could help the Braves.
Okay, let's move on to the East, and the Phillies are the hottest team.
Right, and as far as I'm concerned, they're playing over 700 baseball. Some of the other teams in the East are going to need to pick it up a little, and this is a real mediocre league, which tells me that if a team like Philadelphia gets a quick start and plays 500 from here on, I think they're going to win the whole thing over there. That's just I just don't see that much of a threat over there in the East.
The Cardinals and the Expos.
Yeah,
will probably give
that's
them
about
a
it.
run.
And so if Philadelphia, if they get out to a little bit of a lead here and keep that through June, I think they're really going to be hard to catch.
What's making them so strong?
Well,
Pitching,
the
defense.
hitting has
about
been pretty
everything.
good, but their pitching has been a really pleasant surprise.
Okay, and let's move on to the Tigers. Can they keep it up?
That's a good question. I think what's really helping Detroit this year is that they're a type of team that just tries to outscore you. They just hit a whole bunch of home runs, and they're leading the majors right now. They have something like 50 home runs right now. And the advantage is that I think the pitching in the American League has been bad. I mean, you look at the team ERAs of all these clubs over there, and you really have to look hard to find a group of teams with an ERA under 4. And here it is, Sparky Anderson's club has got an ERA over 4, but not that much over 4. And Detroit's scoring all these runs, so it's almost as if the league is playing their type of game, people outscoring one another.
Yeah, you can tell Sparky's done his homework. When he came into the season and realized the Toronto team and the Yankee team and the Boston team, They don't have the stellar pitching that they have had in the past. He kind of oriented his team around offense. And now, if it's going to be an offensive struggle, the Tigers will win the division. But I really think that, like Ty said about the Giants, you can't maintain those offensive numbers consistently. So I think some team will catch the Tigers. I really do. I think it may be the Blue Jays again or the Yankees, God forbid. But but anyway.
Okay, well, you mentioned New York and Boston. Now, these teams are playing really well.
They are, and as a matter of fact, surprisingly, Boston, here they are in little cozy Fenway Park, and their team ERA is something like 2.8. Roger Clemens, of course, has been great, but then they've got another really good contributions from their pitching staff, and Boston, if if they can keep that up, their hitting has not been that good. They're like one of the last teams in the American League at home runs. They're hitting about 260 as a team. There's really not a whole lot of offense there. They could pick it up a little. But if Clemens and that pitching staff maintains what they're doing right now and stay healthy, just like Philadelphia, keep that good pitching staff healthy, it'll carry them a long way.
Yeah, I think that those four teams that we mentioned, Detroit, Boston, Toronto, and New York, they're going to be right there all year long. That'll probably be the closest race in baseball, I think, don't you?
I think
whereas
so.
Like you said, the weakest division is the National League East, whereas the tightest division probably would be the American League East.
Yeah, I could go with that. Maybe the West might be a little tight.
You never know. The Brewers may shake off their post-Molitor doldrums and make a run, but I doubt it.
Right. Well, you commented on Boston. Now, what about New York?
New York has got a team with a lot of hitting, and that's what I like about them. Tartable, Boggs, Mattingly. To me, I think that New York is going to have to get really good years out of players like that. Those are key players for them. And again, that's a team I think that can compete. I thought that they would give Toronto. I personally picked Toronto. And I thought that the Yankees would be the team that they would have to beat out.
They got a good blend of young players and old players, which is always a tough team to compete with if they got a good blend. And I think, if they can keep that reliever out of the crack houses, they might do a good job this year.
Okay, and we have a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Do y'all know what the shutout record is in the National League? I was curious if the Braves have a chance of setting the National League shutout record. I know they have 5 so far.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you mean most shutouts per year?
Per season, right.
Yeah. It's probably the Dodgers in 65 or something like that when they had Drysdale and Koufax.
Boy, that is a good question.
Because Drysdale had like 60-some scoreless innings, didn't he?
Right, and then when I think of other great pitching staffs, I think about that great one that Earl Weaver had.
But they weren't shutout pitchers, I don't think.
Palmer.
They got 20 wins, but I don't think those were shutout pitchers. To answer your question, no, I don't. Do you?
What about Braves last year? Wasn't it in the low 20s?
I'm not sure. What it was.
They came close last year.
Okay.
We'll check on that for you, and if you tune in next Tuesday, we'll have the info. Now let's move on to the NBA. 3 in a row for Chicago?
Possibly, Jay. They're playing pretty well. I mean, it seems like during the season, it's almost as if this Bulls team became bored almost. And then when playoff time has come up, it's a cliche. They stepped it up, but they have. How else can you say it? I mean, these guys embarrassed the Hawks, and then they just swept Cleveland. This team was just playing really well, and Chicago's a type of team that can get in a half-court game and play well. They can get in a full court, a running game, a transition game, and again, play well. They have the type of players to be flexible, and Jackson's not that bad of a coach either.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. At the outset of the playoffs, I think everybody was talking about the Knicks because they had, quote, a better coach in Pat Riley because he's a better defensive coach. And they had the big man, Ewing, which everyone was projecting a New York-Chicago Eastern Conference final, and they think Ewing could handle the Bulls because the Bulls, if there's one weakness, it's in the middle. Okay, but they've proved that running Purdue and King and Williams and Cartwright in there, they just by sheer numbers, they can plug that gap. And like Ty said, I hate to use sports cliches, but boy, when the playoffs started, Chicago's a different team, and I don't see anybody beating them now. I mean, it looks like his airness is on a mission now.
Now, one thing that I looked at here is that if New York and Chicago meet, which I think they will, New York's going to have the home court this time. Last year, Chicago had it.
It didn't seem to matter in the Bulls' first couple of series, did it?
No, but then the Hawks in Cleveland aren't the Knicks.
No, I know. The one thing that you got to watch out for is the Bulls have played, I think, the two weakest teams in the playoffs. The Hawks, they didn't even belong in the playoffs. And the Cavs, I mean, what a pansy team. I mean, it came time to step up the game, and they just folded and went home. It was just like, Chicago's too tough. We can't beat them. It was a bunch of whining from their locker room.
That was a solid Cleveland team this year. They had a good year.
Right. Two things. One, Michael Jordan hurt his wrist. Do you think that might become a factor, although it wasn't a factor this past weekend? And two, I believe you guys picked Phoenix at the beginning of the year for the NBA playoffs, and what are your stands on that?
Okay, you want to go?
Well, I'll hit on the Jordan thing first. I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, that's just probably the media and them trying to start some type of hype out there for some reason. When Jordan doesn't score 30 or 35 or 40 points, when he misses those clutch baskets, then, yeah, I might believe some of that, but I won't believe it until I see it. As for the Suns, sure, I think they're still one of the teams to beat here. That again is a team like Chicago that can get in a half-court game and play well. They have post-up men, Oliver Miller and Charles Barkley, and then they have the transition game where they have the guys who can run, Kevin Johnson, of course Barkley, and Richard Dumas. They have the athletes as well. And then if they do get caught in a half-court game, they have the three-point shooters, Marley and Ainge, and Big Charles will put one up once in a while also. Yeah. He's not bashful, is he? So, yeah,
but
I think
he's not a role model.
Oh, no, not at all. Just ask him.
Right.
But I think Phoenix has a lot of flexibility, and just like Chicago, I think they can beat you a lot of different ways.
Okay, Jay, your thoughts on Jordan?
I think, okay, first of all, I don't think Jordan's hurt that bad. When they showed the injury right afterwards, if you notice, his wrist wasn't any bigger than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have a sprain, I'm not a doctor. And don't
I was about to say, are you a doctor?
But, you know, when you have a sprain, it always seems to swell. I don't think we saw any swelling in that wrist, and he did seem to play just as good with the sprained wrist. Now, as far as the Suns, I'll stick with that. I think that traditionally in the NBA, the team that plays the best all year long usually wins the championship. And to tell you the truth, the Bulls didn't play, like Ty mentioned earlier in the show. They didn't play very good in the middle part of the season, and Phoenix did. I mean, Phoenix has maintained this level of competition, and they're winning, 2 out of every 3 games, maybe even 3 out of every 4,
basically
all year long. And so if they get into a long series, they may win 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 games against Chicago. I just think it's hard to bet against Chicago now because of the way Jordan's acting, but he's done it. He's just obsessed with this 3rd championship in a row. However, I think Detroit was too, and didn't they lose in the finals in their bid to be a three-peat or whatever?
Yeah.
So you never know. But, you know, since you're right, I picked Phoenix, and I'll stick with it.
Okay.
Phoenix will win the NBA championship.
You heard it here first on the press box. Okay, let's talk about the Knicks and if they have a chance.
Well, certainly I think the Knicks have a chance. They have home court up through the finals unless Phoenix gets knocked off. Then they have home court the rest of, during the whole playoffs. Pat Riley, first of all, I have a lot of respect for, and I think is just about the best coach in the game right now. I think him and Chuck Daly are great. And he has taken no time to turn this Knicks team around. I think that what he's going to want to do is, first of all, he wants to finish off Charlotte, which I think he will. And then I think he's going to want to get Chicago in one of these tough, tight, hard-hitting half-court games like he did last year and try and take the Bulls out of their rhythm and out of their game. He almost was successful last year doing that. I don't see any reason for him to try to change that. I think he'll do the same thing this year.
I think that series will go 7 games.
I do too.
I really do think, like you do, Pat Riley is the best coach in the NBA, and we've touched on that in previous shows. And the thing that amazes me about Riley is he's not afraid to sit someone down, a star player, if he's having an off game. And then you get some third-string player in there that has like a hot game, and it seems like he relies on that too much, but he has an uncanny knack for sensing when a player is going to play good or when a player, in the reverse, when a player is going to play bad. And he's just a good coach, and so they'll be there. I think the fact that I think the Knicks will eliminate Charlotte tonight. Aren't they playing tonight? I think they are.
So.
And if I might add this, Charlotte doesn't even deserve to be in this round because that was goaltending.
Quonk, quonk,
That was
quonk,
goaltending.
quonk, quonk. Okay, well, I have a I have a question about Pat Riley. You say what a great coach he is. Now, he caught a lot of flack for being the coach of the Lakers and saying, oh, the talent of the team is what carried the coach, but now he's in New York and he's got a championship team. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, the Lakers turned out didn't have the great talent because as soon as Riley left, that same talent that seemed to be so great couldn't even win the Pacific Division. So I don't know. I think that, yeah, that was a criticism on Riley that he had a great team and all he had to do was throw him out there.
Right.
And, you know, Magic Johnson was sort of like a coach on the court, but that's when you got to do your best coaching is when you have a bunch of great players because they all got great attitudes. You know, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, you want to move on to hockey?
Hey,
Sounds good.
If we're going to talk about hockey, I want to invite everyone to come to Wade Walker Park, Stone Mountain, this weekend. The city of Atlanta is hosting the Atlanta Cup, and there'll be several teams from up north come down, and it's just a good event. It's a competitive tournament. It's a very exciting amateur sporting event to witness.
Okay.
But we can go on and talk about hockey.
All right.
Sorry
After we
for
get
the
that
plug.
little plug in
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and let's talk about the Knights and their early exit from the playoffs.
In a way, it doesn't surprise me. When you look at the age of this club, you could look at this team and expect them to go a long way. They were so successful during the season, and they had a chance to get NHL players coming down from their parent club to play with them in playoffs. But then you have to realize this is a young team, and when they went into the playoffs and lost, the team that they lost to had about 3 years. There was a 3-year difference in the average age of these players, and when you get into the playoffs, there's experience is a lot. I mean, plain and simple. It's just one of those things where experience just comes through in the playoffs, and the Knights didn't have any basically. But still, a great season for a first year.
Yeah, well, I think the Knights' loss can be summed up in 2 words: Pokey Reddick. I mean, that guy was unbelievable. He stopped everything. Did you go to any of the games? This guy was on fire, and they always say in hockey the hot goaltender is going to win in the playoffs, and if he wasn't a hot goal, and I think they're in the finals too, right? They went on and beat the next team, and now they're
Yes,
playing
they
San
are.
Diego. Yeah, and it's the same way. They're winning games 2-0, 3-1. Because their goalie just is hot. He's not giving up any goals, and I think the Knights just ran into a hot goaltender, and they didn't adjust their game. That one thing that I found fault with the Knights was instead of trying to screen him and disrupt him, they just kept trying to just shoot the puck at him, and he proved he could stop anything they shot.
Right.
Again, Eldon Reddick is a player that had several years of NHL experience up there in Winnipeg, and being up there in Winnipeg, he got to face Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier and some of those guys several times. So if he can stop some of those guys once in a while, certainly,
Yeah,
I think he's not
Knights was
used
a
to
breeze,
it. These young guys. It's probably pretty easy.
Right. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that they did a great job for their first year, and I think we're
Certainly.
all just waiting for next year. And right quick before we go, Stanley Cup. Who's your pick?
I like my team. Well, we picked Pittsburgh.
You both picked Pittsburgh, and
All
now
right.
they're out.
I'm sorry, that was a logical choice.
Yeah.
But now Montreal was my pick.
Okay.
I just
They'll
think
play
they have
Toronto.
that hot goaltending, like you were saying.
Montreal will play Toronto, and it'll be a nightmare for ABC Sports, but it'll be a great series for Canada.
Okay, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in.